up, everybody?
What is up?
Same time, same place. Here we are. We're
That's right.
Budsverse. My name is James, and with me, as always, my buddy, Chad.
That's me.
Say what's up, Chad.
I'm here. What's
Say
up?
something funny,
people?
Chad.
James shook.
Ooh, burn.
Yeah. No.
Don't be using my last name. Just kidding.
Right.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We're going to continue on with part two.
Part two
Of our tribute to dads.
Yep. It's all about the
Our
dads.
tribute to dads.
Yes.
We did one Mother's Day. Now we're doing two Fathers Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to get in trouble for that one.
We got more to say about dads because we know that world more because we're both dads.
Yeah.
We're not moms, so we don't have as much to say about moms.
That's it. So everywhere you go, there you are.
There you are. Yeah.
Like, we talked about this a little bit earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we came to a conclusion, but, like, as far as movies go,
Right.
who's the best,
Right.
like, comedy dad?
Well, see, I
mean,
brought
there's
up
more than one, but I'm saying, like, what are a couple that we came up with?
Yeah, I brought up this one, but then you trumped it because when you brought up yours, I was like, oh, yeah, that one's better. But the first one I thought of was, like, Miss Doubtfire.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
Yes.
You know, that whole thing, he's trying, I mean, he wasn't the greatest dad in the beginning. He wasn't attentive.
He's great.
And,
maybe husband.
Yeah.
Maybe not the greatest husband.
Yeah, husband.
Not very attentive or caring about the mother's
loved
needs
his kids.
or whatever. Wanted to just be buddies with the kids is not always the best policy.
But he learns his lesson. But throughout learning all that, he goes on this wild ride of, like, I'll do whatever I have to do, even if I got to dress up.
Oh, yeah.
Like a
to
lady.
be the nanny.
Yeah, just to be
if I
around
had to trick
my kids.
everybody, I'll do it.
Yeah. And, of course, Robin Williams, classic. You know, great. And it's a great movie, great funny dad, you know, wonderful movie.
Dude looks like a
Yeah, exactly. So many fun moments in that film. That
it was a run by fruit.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so many good lines. But at the end of the day, he realizes, okay, I'm not going to have my family back.
Sure.
The way I want it, but I can still be a dad, and I can still be a part of the family. It's a good, heartwarming film. But I thought of that one. I was like, that's a really good dad. But then you brought up one that trumped
to me, like, as far as comedies go, and like the greatest dad in comedy has to go to Clark W. Griswold.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, he's one of the best comedy dads.
No shots at Robin Williams because that was some funny stuff. That's an epic movie. I will never forget it. And but when there's not, I have to watch Christmas Vacation
every year,
every Christmas time.
I got to.
I have to. It's like tradition or family. My family knows.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do, and they look forward to it as much as I do.
Yeah.
Because we do it once a year, and we laugh at all the same parts, and we make fun of the whole movie. It's fantastic.
It's a great movie.
It's so good. Oh my goodness gracious. The Clark, the Griswold family Christmas tree. Yeah. Like, his lips were freezing and he couldn't speak because they're so cold. He's like, there it is, kids.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's so good.
Did you bring a chainsaw?
Yeah.
Fantastic. That one just like European Vacation.
Yes.
And the actual Vacation movie. Just
many.
Great.
And so funny.
And even Vegas Vacation.
Yeah.
Which
so many
got a lot less money, but still really good.
So many quotable lines and so many things from that movie. Like, again, at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Like, anytime, like, I think of eggnog, I think of the Griswolds, of him.
And those moose cups. And then when he's, like, absolutely losing his mind, like, dips it in.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. That laugh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Losing it. But yeah, he's
I have an idea for a last minute Christmas gift. If anybody's looking.
Yeah. Exactly.
And his little rant.
Oh yeah.
Great comedy. Fantastic.
Right. Great comedy dad.
Every dad wants to be that around holidays. Like, I was and this is where, like, my mind is just, I get kind of messed up.
Right.
I'm motivated by movie dads.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, something they'll do, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's like separating the reality of, like, unlimited budget.
Exactly.
And this is where they're, whatever. I just want to do something that compares or whatever. Look how much fun they had in this movie. Like, that doesn't, that's not smart, James.
Right.
So it takes me a while to, like, get it out of my head. But I'm always like, oh, man, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
But that is, but still, very cool. Every dad, mom, every parent, you want to be like these guys you watch on TV or you've seen in movies, of course. Yeah. Excuse me. You want to be like them in the positive ways.
Right. Well, and plus, like, they all have lines and scripts to follow, and it's supposed to be heartwarming, those kind of things. Reality, it's not. A lot of times, when you're just like, I'm going to do this, and our family's going to love it. Yeah. No, the kids are going to complain the whole time through it. They're not going to be grateful. They're not going to see
not even kind of.
And you're like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. That is not how the kids in that movie acted when their dad told them this is what we're going to do. Yeah. Like, you guys are having the opposite reaction, and then you kind of want to get upset about it, but you're like, I'm mixing up reality versus, fantasy.
Fantasy.
Like, that was what they wanted to happen, so that's what they did. Yeah. This is not what my kids want to happen. Yeah. They'd rather stay and watch video games.
Right.
Not play them. Watch video games.
Them, watch other people
And I'm
play
like, okay, you'd rather do that than go camping or go do this over here. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Why would you? That is not the response that Russ would have given.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, man. But whatever. But there is a lot of that, like separating reality and fantasy. Even as a dad myself, I run into that often.
Oh, yeah.
Of like expectations and personal expectations and reasonable expectations or just far-flung expectations and battling like reality versus fiction and stuff like that. My dad was a wonderful man, passed in 2009, and very tragic for me. It was a loss nobody was expecting, and didn't see it coming. Just one day he was here, and everybody goes to sleep to wake up to the fact that he's no longer here.
Right.
Or he's fighting for his life, and he fought all day, to his credit. His body was willing, but his other parts of his body were not. Like, he just couldn't do it. His brain kind of gave up on him. And that those things happen. But as far as an example, my dad was one that did not set a lot of big-time goals for his kids. Right. It was, you're going to do what you're going to do. You're going to have goals for yourself and dreams for yourself, and it's up to you to achieve them.
Right.
When, like that was the dynamic that was set way before he became a dad in his family, and probably even less. Like, I know about his dad, who was had struggled with alcoholism and abandoned his family on multiple occasions, and my dad was sent to live with relatives who were not in the best situation at all, so they kind of like imprisoned him at times in his life in the attic, and forced him to stay there, feeding him like potato skins.
Oh, wow.
Like peelings, not skins, peeling. They would peel potatoes and give him the peels, and they thought they were punishing him because he was a rebel. He just didn't.
Right.
He knew what he wanted to do, and they were kind of like a cult. It was some scary stuff. Yeah, it was really messed up. So he had a very tragic childhood. It was pretty scary. Right. And but he was such a little, so they always thought they were like imprisoning him, but they forgot in the attics where they kept their MREs from like World War II.
Oh, okay.
So they had tons of like MREs in there, and he was like, oh, cool. So he just had boxes and boxes. They would say, you want some of this food? Thinking he would be starving. Like, no, I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine. So they're thinking like, what on earth? They finally caught on eventually, whatever. But like, I mean, praise the Lord, he got out of that situation.
Right.
But like his examples, they didn't expect anything from him. I mean, he would be in prison or dead before he was 20, for sure. And he immediately started playing music and joined bands and just traveled all over. And I was having a blast, but the expectations that were set for him were not much. It was up to him to figure out his own path in life.
Sure.
And that's sort of what he did for us as kids. It's just it wasn't but I'm not saying that it was a bad thing.
Right.
It just wasn't. He was not prepared in how to help or help you to manage expectations or to come up with a conclusion and help you achieve.
Right.
It's not what he was geared toward. He had what I can do though is give you everything needed for you to achieve it for yourself.
Right.
Type thing, which is there's no problem with that. I don't have a problem. I'm not saying anything negative or positive about it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Sure.
It works. Or it all depends on how willing you are to work for what you want.
Right.
Sure. Type thing. But the thing that my dad taught me the most was an unconditional, undying love for your family.
Right.
For his spouse first, because that's just how it was. He loved my mom more than anybody ever.
Right. Sure.
Could. I mean, I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying, he loved her, and then he loved his kids. He loved them enough to be the bad guy when we didn't want that. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just want to be. You just want parents to say yes. Just please, just give me an opportunity. And when he thought, at the time, it was horrible.
Right.
At the time, I was like, no, it's the end of life.
Yeah, exactly.
As a father, now, I think back, when he didn't feel like it was a good idea, he would not go against his own personal belief in that area. This isn't good, and even though you're going to be mad at me, and you're not going to like it, I will not let you do something that I feel is going to hurt you in the end. Right. I love you too much, and I can't live with that. Right. So that's what he did, and told us no often. Right. And I think maybe he deviated from that stance a time or two, but not because he thought it would hurt us, just because he wanted to be mean. I think he did that. But that as a kid, of course, you're going to think that. Right. Sure. As an adult now, I can genuinely say that a lot of my methods are the same way. It's I'll be the bad guy, and I know my kids get really mad at me. I get that. Yeah. But in the end, you're going to have the best opportunity possible. It all depends on your ability to listen to what you've been told your entire life. Right. You know what I mean? And that's where our belief in the Word of God and all that other stuff, how it comes in and how that was something else passed down from my dad. That was the thing that held him accountable to all the other stuff. And that's what, that was the thing that he introduced, that was introduced to him, that when he built his life upon it, it made a difference. Sure. And that's the thing that he passed on to me and my brother and my sister. And at different times in our life, we finally came to that realization. Sure. Yeah. It did take some time. Not because it was a lack of him teaching or showing or being an example. It was a lack of desire of wanting to do it that way. But my dad was a great example of that. Mm-hmm. And that's also why I chose to build my life on the Word of God. Right. Sure. And I hold myself to those standards, and I hold myself accountable to that. Right. And even when it makes you seem like the bad guy or come across as, just come on, Dad. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I know. In the end, this will prove to be better. Yeah. For us all. Sure. Type thing. It's hard to do. Yeah. Hard to do. Yeah. Great stories along the way. Sure. Lots of ins and outs and ups and downs. Right. Sure. But all in all, the greatest example we can set for, in my opinion, great example we can set for our kids is something you can build your life on. Right. And something you can pattern your life after. Yeah. And it won't mess you up. Yeah. You know what I mean? Anyone can do it at any generation, at any time. It has been proven. Right. So I'll go with that method. You know what I mean? Yeah. And trying to teach my sons how to build your life on something that's, unshakable. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. But your dad was... My dad... was fantastic, too. Yeah. Of course, my dad passed away in 2014. Right. But in my we've family, never met each other's dads. No, we never have. But I know for a fact my dad would prefer you over me. You think so? Oh, I know it. I know it. It's like everybody else in my family. Aside from my wife and my kid, well, my kids probably prefer you too, but other than my wife, everybody else prefers Chad. Would like James and Chad. Yeah, they're just alike, but Chad's the newer version.
The newer version?
The newer version with coming from a different side of the country, so you come with a different basis.
I don't know about that.
No, but my other relatives, aunts and uncles and everything, they much prefer you. And I know that my dad would have been like, Chad's funny. Yeah. That's good. Dad, I've been saying that same line
for 20 years.
half of my life. And you always told me I was an idiot. Yeah. So why on earth, when this idiot comes along, do you find it funny?
Funny. Yeah. But no. And I feel the same way. I feel like if my dad would have got a chance to know you, he would have loved you.
Yeah.
Like in my family, ministry is kind of like a family tradition. Like my dad was a pastor his whole life. My grandfather was a pastor, and so on up the line. I have uncles who are pastors and cousins who are pastors. It's kind of a family thing. And of course now I'm a pastor. And growing up, with my dad, my dad, of course, was always about church and about God and about the Bible and about the Word. And
right.
And really, like when I was growing up with him, there was a distance there because I wasn't about that life. I really wasn't. I didn't care. I was a kid.
Yeah.
I wanted to do my own thing, and that kind of led all the way up until like I was out of the house, on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And but once I did come back and came back to the Lord and surrendered my life to Him and really started to follow the Word of God and what I felt like God wanted to do in my life, that's when me and my dad's relationship really started to take off, because for the first time in a long time, like the stuff he's saying made sense and it hit
now
home.
You can understand it.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I get that, and I understand that, and my dad, what very funny, my dad, my relationship with my dad probably wasn't like a lot of other dads. Like my dad, growing up, he was an evangelist, which meant he was gone a lot, because he would go and do revivals and different speaking meetings around the state, for different churches. And of course, me and my mom would always go to our local church there, but and my brother, so we didn't see Dad a lot. I mean, Dad would be gone for like 3 weeks at a time, and then he'd come back, and we'd see him for like a week, and then he'd be back out, and that's the way it was for a short period in my life. Not all my life, but like a good, healthy part of my life.
Right.
It was kind of like that. So Mom was more of the disciplinarian. Mom, kind of held things down while Dad was out doing his thing. And like as far as like a lot of people remember, I remember playing catch with my dad, or him teaching me how to swing a bat. Right? That really wasn't my relationship with my dad.
Right. That
was more my relationship with my brother. My brother is the one who taught me sports and taught me how to do that stuff. My older brother. He kind of filled that role in my life. But the one thing that like I give all the credit to my dad is my dad really established in me, a fear of God, a respect for the Word, respect for church. Even if I didn't believe in it at the time, there was still that respect for it, because that's what my dad did for a living. It's what my dad did, and every kid is proud of their dad, for whatever they're doing. And I was proud of it. And, and so once I got into that world, our bond really took off. My dad, and I've got a ton of goofy stories I can tell you about my dad. My dad was not athletic at all. My dad was very, very goofy, very clumsy. My dad.
Yeah. You said something like every year he'd do something.
Every year, my dad, without fail, ever since I was alive, would fall into the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Every year. Because my mom, now once we got up to the point of understanding the deal, that
how do you fall into a Christmas tree?
Well, my mom always decorated a Christmas tree with tons and tons of ornaments and tons of. We still do that today.
Yeah.
My family, we have a ton of ornaments, and the way we always did it in our family was, you go out and like when you take a trip, when you take a vacation, when something monumental happens, like the birth of this or whatever, we would get ornaments to commemorate that, and then at Christmas time you'd hang them up on the tree. So kind of reminder of all the good times in your life.
Yeah.
Me and Heather still do that to this day. Like anywhere we go on a trip or anything, we're like, oh, we need to get an ornament, and we'll hang it. And so we had a massive tree with a ton of ornaments and a ton of lights on it, and my mom would always put presents underneath the Christmas tree. And my dad would always want to go look at the ornaments. Right?
Well, see them close. Remember
But my dad was very clumsy, and every time he would get close to the tree, trying to see the ornament or read an ornament, he would trip over the Christmas presents and fall right into the tree.
Yeah.
Happened every single year. You could mark it with your watch. Like, that's going to fall into the Christmas tree. And what killed me was every time he'd fall in the Christmas tree, he would yell at me. He'd be like, Chad! Like it was my fault. And I was like, it's not my fault, you fell. You know this is going to happen. Why do you do this?
Chad.
But that's what my dad was very clumsy. My dad, one of the funniest stories I can tell about my dad being clumsy was when he took me squirrel hunting.
Oh, yeah.
He took me squirrel hunting when I was just a little kid. And I grew up in West Virginia, mountains everywhere. He took me and my brother and one of my brother's friends.
Right.
And we get to the bottom of the mountain, and he's like, okay, Scott, that's my brother's name. Scott, you go this way with your friend, and me and Chad will go this way around this side of the mountain. Right. And, of course, it's a mountain, so you're walking uphill for a long, long time. Well, we get about like halfway up the mountain, and my dad's tired, and he's like winded. And he's like, whew, let's stop and get a breather here. Well, we're on the side of a mountain, so it's slanted.
Right.
Well, he stops, and he leans against this little tree. Well, when he leans and puts pressure on that tree, everything falls. Like, it uproots, and the tree goes, and my dad goes, just rolling down the mountain. Just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Rolling around. And that itself was funny, because I'm like a little kid, and my dad is falling. So I'm laughing as hard as I can. But what made me laugh even harder was when my dad finally got control of himself and wasn't falling anymore. He looks up at me with the most serious face in the world and is like, shh, you're going to scare the squirrels. Like, what he just didn't scare every animal within a 5-mile radius.
I'm pretty sure Chris Farley made less noise filming Black Sheep than that.
And he fell, and I laughed so hard. And
squirrels.
And we did squirrel hunt the rest of the day. We did not get any, but it was so funny because then I got to tell my brother when we met up with him again, and they got to laugh. But my dad is just
found it even as
so
funny.
many good stories about my dad falling down. My dad fell down the stairs naked one time to help my mother carrying groceries.
That's so funny. I don't even know why, but that's so funny.
We lived in a 2-story house, and my dad
was trying to help.
My dad was in the shower apparently, and he heard my mom, who had run to the store to get groceries, coming through the front, and he was out of the shower, and he had a towel wrapped around him.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about Kirks, we're very short.
Very short.
So he had his towel wrapped around him, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go down here and help, Linda, my mom, carrying groceries."
But it'd be helpful.
Well,
husband.
When he rounded the corner to go down the steps, he stepped on his towel, and just boom, fell all the way down the stairs, and gets dumped out into the living room floor.
Yeah.
Towel gone by then. Yeah. So he's just buck naked in the middle of the floor. And my mom comes in and is like, "Bob, what are you doing?" And he was like, "I was trying to help you.
I was trying to
help." He was like, "What if it was? He's like, what if I wasn't by myself? What if somebody from the church would have been stopping by or something?"
I didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah. So
it's not like I'm trying to be a jerk over here.
Yeah. So my dad has had so many incidents of falling down.
Oh my gosh!
But it just adds to the endearment of him when I think about him.
Yeah,
because he was a great dad. You know, he taught me right from wrong. He taught me, about the word. And when I got into ministry and started pastoring on my own, I leaned on him a lot.
Yeah.
Because whenever I'd have a problem with the church or an issue that I didn't really know how to handle, at first I'd pray, and then the second thing I'd do is I'd call my dad. And be like, Dad, what would you do in this situation? And then that was a hard adjustment, you know, when he passed away. It's like, okay, you know, who do you call now? But you know, that's just you know, those are the memories you hang on to when you're your dad. It's not just the heavy stuff, it's some of the light stuff that brings you a smile when you think about it. Like every Christmas, like when we're putting up the Christmas tree, I think of like, Dad would have fell in there.
Dad would have fallen. This is the part would have tripped him right here.
This would have been it. He'd have been trying to read this ornament and fell right into the tree.
Oh, man, that's funny.
And that stuff sticks with you. You know. But the biggest thing that he gave me was a respect for the Lord, and I'm glad he did, because now, you know, I'm a minister and I'm a pastor, and it's an honor to just be in the ministry, but it's also an honor to carry on the family tradition and be like, okay, you know. And I don't know if there's a minister in my bunch or not.
You never know.
You never know, though. You know, I'm not going to push him into it, but but I hope I can do the same thing that they did, that my dad did for me. Like growing up in this, I know we're not always going to see eye to eye, but I hope that someday they're like, hey, Dad taught us to fear the Lord, to follow the Word of God, to honor the Lord, and to follow that lifestyle. I hope.
It often dawns on me that, like, not sure. I wish that I could have given my dad the compliment of letting him know like how much I appreciate. But how could I know at the time, obviously?
Sure.
So it's not, I don't like regret it, but it is definitely something I wish could have changed. Because if I could tell him anything, I mean, the compliment I would want to give him would be, thank you for setting an example that I ultimately would pattern my life after.
Right.
And that being, you know, my relationship with God.
Right.
I mean, building my life and holding my life to the standard of the Word of God.
Right.
And it's such an important thing to me and to us.
Yes.
And I don't know if, I know that you and your dad had, I imagine, had lots of heart-to-hearts, and that's really cool. I did have a chance to reconcile and like bring back to a good relationship with my dad. And the only thing that threw it off was just, you know, rumors, really. Right. Just people lying.
Sure.
And that is unfortunate. But they'll have to answer for that. They'll have to deal with that. But it was a wedge that ultimately I thank God. Right. That we got over. That he got us to a place where we got over it, set all that stuff aside. Right. And got in right standing with one another, and just were able to, like a couple days before he died, it was, Dad, I love you, I appreciate you, and, you know, thanks for being there for me.
That's great.
And, son, I love you, and I appreciate you, I'm so proud of you, and it was a really cool conversation. And then the next day he died, and it was fantastic. Not the death part, but the fact that was settled.
So it
was so easy for me to say, you know what, I'm settled in my heart. I know that he's in the right place. We're in the right place. I have no regrets. So it's like, Dad, if you want to go, you can go. You know what I mean? So it was really good in that aspect. But the things I regret the most, like not meeting my kids, not meeting my wife. Right. And not meeting my best friend. And like the church that we have together. You know what I mean? Like it's really cool. The church that God has built. And that we're able to be a part of, I think he sure would have had a lot of fun. Right. But I think he would have ended up like embarrassing himself a lot as he got older, because he had no filter, and I sure do miss him though. But
of course.
Definitely can see myself or see him in me, and like how I respond and how I act and how I treat other people and how I respond to certain things. So I can see it because I hear my kids say things I used to say. Yeah. And then my response is what my dad would have said. And I don't catch it till the end of it. I quote
my dad all the time.
Oh, man, I hated that when I was a kid. Why on earth did I just say that?
Why would I say that?
And then you turn around and say it again, and then but really mean it.
Right.
And then you understand the wisdom behind it.
Yes.
Like, you're going to say it because I said so.
Yeah.
Like,
now,
how many times did you hear that as a kid?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
And how many times did you hate it?
Yeah.
Every time.
Because it didn't make no sense. Well, that's not a good enough reason, but it was the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't buck
You're not
it.
going to change it.
Yeah.
You're just causing more frustration.
Yeah.
And even to explain it to you, you couldn't understand.
But why? Because I said.
Even if I gave you all of the ups and downs and arounds and everything, like that's the thing kids don't understand the most. They want to know why. Well, why would you want to know? You can't possibly conceive
exactly
where I'm coming from.
Right.
Because you only see the positives in yourself.
Yeah.
You only see the positive of the situation. You're not taking into account all of the negatives, the things that you're prone to do, which you can't even see in yourself.
Or you're not living in reality. You're living in fantasy.
That's right.
Like, I know this is going to work. And
this is going to work.
No, it's not. It's not.
Trust me.
Well, I know this is like off the, we didn't plan this part. But do you have, like, as you look back on your fatherhood-dom, do you have, like, one of your favorite father moments of, it can be funny, it can be serious, it can be heartfelt, but, like, of a dad moment.
Personal?
Yeah,
dad
personal,
moment?
Your dad moment. Like, when you think back and you're like, that was a silly dad moment, powerful dad moment.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to choose, but, like.
Yeah. Man,
I know I put you on the spot.
That's okay. But I do. I'm. My family and I. We are a blended family. The young men that I call my sons are technically stepsons, but I don't use step because they've never been step. You know what I mean? My wife had a previous relationship, and she had in that relationship they had 2 kids together, and then she met me and. I became a part of their life, and I kind of got involved when my oldest son was 7, my youngest was 3, and they're about to level up. I came in that time of the equation, and it might have been I was actually there when my youngest was born. I knew my wife and her ex beforehand.
Right.
They did come by the church every once in a while. I was in a different state, and I was in seminary school, and also I was interning and a lot of stuff going on. But after all that was over for me, by the time it was over with, and they had stopped coming to church a long time before that, her and her ex, they split, and he left, and she was left raising these 2 kids, and that's when we met. And and I say all that to just kind of set the scene. Right. So, like, majorly proud dad moments, right, was when we went to church and they had a great, Sunday school afternoon. It was fantastic. A lot of fun, a lot of whatever. And my oldest asked the question, how do you know, how do you know that you're in the right relationship, or how do you know you're saved? What we call saved, meaning in right relationship with God. It's like, well, it's very simple. Like, we all mess up, right? Right. Kind of walking him through that process and getting him to understand that it's about making, God first in your life and being obedient to Him and His word and His standard and yada yada. And it's like, and I'm going to be here with you to help you along the way. So we prayed and we set it straight, and he was certain that he was, that he was set, that he was right. So he's like, man, that feels a lot better. It feels like it's secure, Right. Which I thought, that's absolutely. About a month later, same thing with our youngest, because we talked at the same time, but he's a thinker. Right. And he was only like 3 and some change or whatever, but he had to think about it for a while. Right. And then he came back with the same, with a question, but it formed in a different way. And then I got to talk to him about that as well. Right. And it was shortly after that whole thing with both of the kids that they both started calling me Dad. Right. They used to call me James. Yeah. That was my name. Sure. I'm not going to force you to do anything. But it was shortly after that it was Dad. That's my dad. Hey, Dad. It was it was just totally different thing. It just made me feel
Yeah, that's a big moment.
That's a
big moment. Yeah.
It felt like, I mean, I'm sure my wife had something to do with it. Like, it's like you're talking to your friend. He's not your friend. This is the guy that, is. This is going to be dad. Like, this is who he is. It's the role he's playing in your life.
Right.
Until your dad, gets it together or comes back around or whatever it is. But it was such a proud thing. It was a big deal. Yeah. And probably like the fun, and there's so many funny things here and there. Yeah. And there's like major lows and major highs. That's and part like of big parenting. Moments of success, and you're just so proud of them for doing this or saying that or coming through at the right time. Mm-hmm. And it's so disappointed when make such a bad decision and you find out it was a lie. Just stuff like that. Just mistrust and teenagerdom. Ugh.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. I hope they survive to get to be adults.
Yeah.
But the major lows or highs, and some of the funniest stuff, like my youngest, funniest thing he's ever said to me. We had a great conversation on the way to church. What does it mean to worship? Right. And why do we go?
Right.
So early in the morning, why do we? Yeah. Whatever. Why is that so important? When we do the same thing at home, like we do it at home, why do we have to go to church? And why do we do this? And it was a conversation that lasted the whole trip to church. At the time, we didn't live that far, but still, it was 5-10 minutes. We had asked questions, answered, and we responded with questions to kind of pull it out of themselves and the answer, you got it. Then we pulled up to church, put it in park, turned the car off, and just about to open the door to get out. And he goes, "Dad." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" If there were zombies, I would hit them in the head.
Yeah, I would hit him in the head.
And I turned around and I went, "You know what? I think you're right."
I think you're right.
And that was his big revelation for the day. Or for us to just really ponder and think about, guys, if there's zombies, you hit them in the head.
You hit him in the head.
That's it.
That's the best plan.
And that was his thing for the day. And he wasn't trying to be funny. He was being genuinely serious because he's really been contemplating. Because his friends and whatever, we didn't watch zombie movies. I can't stand them. But he would, they play a video game or they go to a friend's house or they would do something. So it would come up. You know what I mean?
Zombies everywhere.
Especially The Walking Dead was huge then. Yeah. And it's just stuff that would come up. And he just really been pondering, really been thinking about it. From the stuff he'd seen, the most successful way to find a zombie was hitting it in the head.
Hit it in the head.
So he wanted to make sure that we understand, we know that, and I think the topic of rapture came up of Jesus' return or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's what got him thinking about it. And he wanted to make sure that we understood, we knew, and you know him. So
oh yeah,
you remember him when he was that small.
Oh yeah, I do.
And it was so fun. But that was his big thing for the day. And that was probably one of the funniest things we experienced as a family. And other things here and there, but as a dad, I couldn't wait to share that story. Yeah. Of the topic of the day and then how it ended. And now let's go into church ready to worship and do our thing today.
For zombies.
It was so cool. It was such a cool thing. Our dad moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, of course, I know I asked you the question and then I'm didn't even think
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
Okay.
No, but I do, because when you have, you have multiple children, there's moments for every one of them. But I remember the first moment, and this may be a little cheesy or sappy, but I remember the first moment, with my oldest son, Kobe. He was just a little guy, just a little tyke, and maybe anywhere between 3 and 5 years old. That's how young he was. And I'm a brand new dad, first son. It's I'm trying my best, trying to be a good dad. But when they're that little, it's basically just maintenance. Make sure they're still breathing. And that's basically
still breathing.
Those are your dad moments. You're I'm rocking you, I'm feeding you, I'm doing this stuff. Mm-hmm. But up until a certain point, you're okay, now Dad's teaching, Dad's showing, and of course they're tiny, so there's only so much you can teach and show, because their little brains are developing, and saying, oh, this is how you play with this or this, but one of the cool moments for me was when of course, I was pastoring at the time, and of course, and Heather, she had a job, so she worked outside the home. Well, she was gone, and it was just me and Kobe there, and he was asleep. It was early in the morning. He was still asleep, and while he was asleep in there in his room, I went into the living room, and I'm studying my Bible, trying to get ready for sermons and things like that. Well, I finished reading and studying, and I was like, okay, shut my Bible. I was like, okay, well, I got a moment's peace, because when you're dealing with toddlers, there's not a lot.
Yep.
So I was like, as soon as he gets up, the day's going to begin, and it's going to be a crazy whirlwind. So I was thinking, well, I got a moment, I'm going to use this moment, I'm going to pray. And so I was sitting on my couch, and I just turned around and used the couch. So I got on my knees and was leaning on the couch and praying. And so I'm sitting there and I'm praying and I'm praying. Well, while I'm praying, I hear the pitter-patter of bare feet.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Coming my way, and I'm like, okay, he's going to come and be like, jump on me, or be like, Dad, or whatever, want me to turn the TV on, or whatever.
Sure.
But I'm sitting there and praying, and he doesn't make any noise, and he comes all the way in, and then while I'm praying, I feel something like on the couch.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, he's on the couch, and so while I'm praying, I kind of open my eyes and I look. Well, he is on his knees, with his little arms, on the couch, and he's praying.
Yeah.
And that was a cool moment.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
And that was a cool moment for me. And it was a cool moment for me personally, because I was like, oh, he wants to be like Dad. But it was also a cool moment because in that moment, it kind of, it was always real to me, but in that moment, it kind of hit home that I'm the one that's setting the example for him. And
I'm the one that's setting the tone here.
And he's going to follow my lead, because if he sees Dad praying, he'll pray.
Sure.
And if he sees Dad doing something, he'll do it. Now, of course,
will he be faithful in it? Not 100%, but when that rubber hits the road and time really gets tight or whatever, he'll know where to.
Now he's 22 years old, and of course he has to make his own decisions and make his own choices, but and so do my other ones. But that was a really cool dad moment that always stuck with me, because I was thinking that's really cool, and it put a lot of pressure on me. I'm like, oh man, I gotta show these people how to do this, and
oh man,
and they're looking at me.
Not only do I have to get this right, I got to get it right for them too.
Yeah. And it really sinks home, like, oh man, you're a dad, and that's what you got to do as a dad, and you try to do your best at it. And of course, we've had many funny moments, as far as like funny dad moments, along the way, that we could tell stories forever. But that was one of the ones that really kind of hit me home and set the tone of like, wow, that's really cool. That's really something.
Yeah.
And I try to remind myself of it as often as I can, to try and set the example, as much as humanly possible. And of course, you don't hit it out of the park every time. We're human.
Sure.
We make mistakes. But to me, the reason why I wanted to ask that question is because I think every dad, and of course we're talking about fathers today, but every dad should sit down at some point in their life, whether it's today or whatever, and really think about those type of moments.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes you a dad. Because those moments are what makes a dad a dad. It's not about how much money you make. It's not about, how skilled you are in everything you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a company or you're living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Everyone has a dad moment in their life if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the moments they're going to remember.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, Kobe and Lexi and Zim, those are my three, they're not going to remember how much money Dad made. They're not going to remember, all the stuff that Dad bought. They're not, because I don't think about that. When I think about my dad, I don't ever think about gifts and money and, You know, I don't think about that. I just think about him falling in the tree, him falling,
Sure.
you know, in
He had a thing with trees.
Yeah, he did.
Bob had a problem with trees.
And Dad didn't go well together. But you know, you think about those things, and I think sometimes as dads we forget that those are the important things. Those are the things that matter.
Right.
It's not the other stuff, because a lot of times you can get in your head, I should say, and compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know, well, look at that dad. That he's got all the money and he's got all the toys and he's got all the bells and whistles, and they go on trips and they do this and they do that. And a lot of times it makes you feel bad about you and what you're doing for your own family. But at the end of the day, all that stuff's not going to matter. It's going to be those moments of you and your children, you and your son or you and your daughter, and that moment that they're going to remember for the rest of their life, and it has nothing to do with all that other stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, that's the part that becomes so hard to remember. Yeah. As an adult, or as an adult male, the things that you find important, the things that, you know, that motivate you, or make you even feel ashamed, or the things that make you feel less of a man or less of a father. Yeah. Those things don't matter a thing to your kids. Yeah, don't. I mean, 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100. Like, I mean, those things just don't matter to them. So it's that challenge of remembering that the most important things, the things that make you who you are, and passing those things down, and how you respond to major situations. Yes. How you respond when things are at their most stressful, or at their worst for your kids, not for you. Your kids aren't going to remember. They don't know the stresses that you carry. Exactly, and they're not going to know. They're just going to know that on their happiest day, you were super angry, exactly, or like you were super upset about something, or you were stressed out about whatever. It was their birthday, but you're ticked off because you spent too much money on presents, or you can't afford the right kind of things. Like so-and-so got a present for their birthday, or like even have a kid tell you, well, I thought I was going to get this, or I thought I was going to get that, or come Christmas, like, where's the Xbox? Yeah, exactly. Like, that's $1,000. Like, I can't drop a stack on a video game right now, son. I'm so sorry. Yeah. And then, like, you get stressed, or like, it's how I have responded at those moments. Yeah. Where I realize, like, those are going to have the biggest impacts, like, in their life. Like, I see it as selfish, or I see it as whatever, because I expect them to be full-grown adults, but they're not. Right. So just it's like, it's how do you respond? And I have succeeded in a few, and I have failed in a few. Oh, so have I. But don't fall for the temptation of allowing how you feel in a situation dictate how you respond. Yep. It's how we respond that our kids are going to remember the most, and the important moments in their life. Yeah. And important moments for them. And as parents, we know what those moments are. Oh, yeah. And just as dads, remember, be ready to respond in the right way, and don't let other people dictate, how you feel about how you're doing. Right. Are you setting the best example you can? Are you being the father that you need to be? Are you being the husband? Are you being the example? Yeah. Because that's the most important thing. Yeah. And it will, whether they recognize it right away or they don't see it till years down the road. Right. I think any person that had a good dad will look back and say, if they mess up, they're like, well, I can't say I had a bad dad because I know I had a good one. Right. Exactly. Or I can't say that I had a bad home life because I know I had a good one. Right. I just messed up, or whatever. Exactly. That's our biggest fear as parents. Like, your kid ends up in a really bad situation legally or whatever. Yeah, that you're going to mess them up. It's like, oh gosh, they're going to blame me. They're going to blame me for it. I just know it. Exactly. At the end of the day, did I set the best example I could in the situation I was in with the information I had. You know what I mean? So, like, that's tough, man. I think that can be hard, but it doesn't mean it's impossible or that we kind of just don't try. Right. Absolutely. It's super important. That's what shifts. That's what changes countries. Yeah. That's what changes families, and the dynamics of communities and countries is how we respond to adversity. So that's definitely a thing as we get closer, we wrap things up here today. Yeah. Just a little something to leave our audience with. If you know a dad, this has been a bit of a lengthy episode, so we'll probably have to break this up into a few episodes. But if you know a dad to be, or one, even maybe send it to your dad.
Yeah.
Let them know. Send them a copy of today's episode. Bottom line, we just want you guys to have a great. I know Father's Day weekend is over with, but continue to celebrate moms and dads and celebrate each other, celebrate the family in any way that you can as a family. Celebrate together. Just being together is worth it. You don't have to just wait for birthdays, and you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars. You just have to be willing to celebrate the fact that you are together.
Right.
Because that is not, honestly, it's not guaranteed forever. So celebrate every chance you get. And we appreciate you, dads. We appreciate your fathers, especially the ones who are doing a good job and setting good examples out there and sacrificing themselves to make sure that their families are in the best situation possible, but not just financially. Those things are important, but at the same time, those aren't the all in all.
Right.
You ain't got to have a lot of money to be a good dad. And I try to prove that every day.
Right. Yeah. We're living it.
No.
Yeah.
But just doing your very best. And we know who, as far as Chad and myself, we know who we are.
Yeah.
We know the standard that we hold ourselves to, or do our very best to hold ourselves to, which is the Word of God. And I would plead with all of you to do the same. But if you choose not to, that doesn't mean I don't want to have a conversation with you or talk to you, or entertain you. But at the same time, it's such an important thing to have a standard and to have people in your life, like my buddy Chad for me, and me for him, when we are not holding ourselves to that standard, to be there, come alongside, and challenge.
Oh, yeah.
And to remind you, hey, you can do better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
we all can.
Yeah, we all can. But we all need people in our life. But anyway, bottom line, we just want to thank you for joining us today, and hope that you guys have a great rest of your week.
Yeah.
Do something amazing.
Yeah. Have a great summer.
Enjoy the first day of summer, apparently. The beginning of summer. I thought we'd been in it for a while, but
I did too.
I was wrong. So enjoy some summer, people. And see if I can't get these people out of my pool. Just because we share an apartment complex doesn't mean you're sharing my pool, buddy. Get out of my pool. No. Well, you guys have a great summer, and we will see y'all next week. I'm not sure what the topic's going to be, but
it'll be something good.
It'll be mediocre, probably. Just kidding. It'll be the best episode yet.
It'll be the best ever.
Just like today. Anyway, peace out. God bless. We will see y'all on the flip side.
All right. Thanks for listening.